Today we're going to get into a really powerful story from the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. This is a man who, and I mean this literally, risked everything just to learn how to read and write. And what he discovered was that the very thing that could set him free was also the source of his greatest pain.
Think about that for a second. That's the question right at the heart of Douglass's life. He found out that learning to read was a total double-edged sword. Sure, it showed him the path to freedom, but it also made the day-to-day reality of being enslaved almost impossible to bear. So let's dive into how this all played out.
You know, his journey to literacy starts in a place you might not expect. It doesn't begin with some big act of defiance. It actually starts with a moment of kindness. His new mistress, a woman he said was gentle and good-hearted, actually started teaching him his ABCs.
Can you imagine? For a young enslaved boy in that world, this must have felt like a miracle, like a little bit of light cracking through the darkness. His mistress was actually teaching him, treating him like a person who deserved an education. But yeah, that hopeful beginning was not gonna last.
So, the master of the house, her husband, finds out what she's doing, and he is furious. He completely forbids her from teaching Douglass another letter. He basically lays it out for her. Teaching an enslaved person to read is wrong, it's dangerous, and it would make him, in his words, unfit to be a slave.
Now, her husband's order didn't just stop the lessons. Oh no, it did something much worse. It set off this chilling change in the mistress herself, a transformation that Douglass had to watch happen right before his eyes.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It's so stark. Douglass makes a point of telling us how she started, as this kind, gentle person, but after her husband stepped in, she became something else entirely. Fierce, cruel. She started watching him like a hawk to make sure he never picked up a book. And this is where Douglass makes such a brilliant point. He doesn't just blame her. He blames the entire institution of slavery. He saw it as a kind of poison that could corrupt even the kindest people. It dehumanized the person holding the whip just as much as the person feeling its lash. Listen to that phrasing. It's just incredible. He's saying she wasn't born cruel. She actually had to learn how to be that cruel. The irresponsible power she had as a slave owner just warped her, twisted her character, until she became the very person keeping him in chains, mentally and physically. But here's the thing. What her husband did, it completely backfired. His angry words lit a fire in Douglass. He suddenly understood crystal clear that learning to read was the pathway from slavery to freedom, and he decided right then and there he was going to get it, no matter what it took.
And the way he did it was just genius. He couldn't go to a school, right? So he made the streets his classroom. He started making friends with the poor white kids in the neighborhood. These were boys who often knew how to read but didn't always have enough to eat. And Douglass, he saw an opportunity. This is one of the most famous and beautiful lines in his entire story. He creates this amazing metaphor. He's trading literal bread, physical food, for what he called the bread of knowledge, the food for his mind that he was starving for. It was the sustenance his soul really needed.
So as Douglass got better and better at reading, his understanding of the world got deeper and deeper. And so did his understanding of just how monstrously unjust his life was. This new awareness, it changed everything. And it brought him both incredible clarity and just profound pain. It all came to a head when he was about 12. He managed to get his hands on a book called The Columbian Orator. And this book, well, it was the key that unlocked his mind. It was basically a collection of speeches and dialogues about freedom and human rights.
Just imagine you're him, you're a 12-year-old boy, enslaved, and you read this. For the very first time, Douglass saw a powerful, logical argument for abolition. He saw a fictional slave use the power of truth and reason to actually win his own freedom. It gave him the words, the logic, to fight slavery, even if only in his own head for now.
This quote just gives me chills. He's saying that before he read this book, he had these feelings, these flashes of thought about how wrong slavery was, but he didn't know how to put them into words. They would just die away. This book gave him the utterance, the vocabulary for the deepest truths he already felt in his soul. It told him he wasn't crazy. He was right. And this is it. This is where we come back to that huge paradox we started with. The more he read, the more he understood. And the more he understood, the more he suffered. So on the one hand, you have the blessing. Reading gave him the arguments to fight back. It gave him what he called a powerful vindication of human rights. It proved to him, without a doubt, that he was a man who deserved to be free, not a piece of property.
But then you have the curse. because with all that knowledge came an unbearable amount of pain. He says he writhed under it. Think about that word. He's in agony. At times, he honestly felt that learning to read was a curse because it made him feel the crushing weight of his chains in a way he never had before.
This really sums up the whole conflict perfectly. Knowledge opened his eyes and showed him he was in a horrible pit, but it didn't give him a ladder to climb out. He could see with perfect, agonizing clarity how wretched his situation was, but he was still trapped. He had the diagnosis, but not the cure. And that mental pain got so bad, so intense, that sometimes he actually wished he were an animal. A beast doesn't have to think about freedom or injustice, but Douglass couldn't stop thinking. And that constant, nagging awareness of his stolen life was a special kind of torture.
In the end, Douglass's story really makes us ask ourselves this huge question. He risked brutal punishment, and he endured incredible mental anguish, all for that bread of knowledge that was both his salvation and his torment. It's a powerful reminder that the road to freedom, whether it's of the mind or the body, is almost never easy or painless.